Hello and welcome to Useful Idiots Monday Morning, where we react to the Sunday morning news shows that we watch so that you don't have to. I'm Katie Halper.
I'm Aaron Maté. Good Monday morning, everybody. It's a momentous one. The elites are melting down. This campaign's got very exciting. Who would have thought it could be so heated in July? Usually these things pick up in the fall with the October surprise, but we got a summer surprise.
Summer surprise, yeah.
With the president, this really wasn't a surprise if you watch Useful Idiots, but the president not being able to cognitively function properly. And with this being shown to the world so early, the Democratic Party, is freaking out. So we got a fun one today.
We do have a fun one. And of course, Aaron, as you pointed out, if you watched Useful Idiots or you watched Joe Biden actually and weren't totally brainwashed, this didn't come as a surprise to you. But our media was part of the show that presented Biden as viable. And so they tricked a lot of people. Not us, though.
They sure did. Well, let's see how they're handling the mask being pulled off, because Joe Biden and not being able to string a sentence together really pulled it off in striking fashion.
I actually have to admit that for like the first time ever in my life, I felt bad for him.
Well, sure. Yeah, of course. He's struggling, and it's awkward. It's very awkward.
It's very awkward. Yeah. The voice, the like weak voice, was just reminding me of very old, nice old people, like nice and firm old people, which he's not, but he came off that way for a couple minutes. Anyway, so should we go to the first clip? And that is, as always, Meet the Press.
Yes. Let's watch Meet the Press, a.k.a. Meet the Reckoning with Elder Abuse.
Yeah.
Good Sunday morning. Good Sunday morning. It is yet another extraordinary moment in the 2024 election cycle, with Democrats in a state of crisis after President Joe Biden delivered a disastrous debate performance that fueled voters' top concerns about his age and ability to serve another 4 years in office. Not since the first Nixon-Kennedy debate in 1960 has a debate had as much potential to shake up a presidential race. This morning, there is widespread panic within the Democratic Party and questions about whether the president should drop out of the race.
I think it was a disaster. I think it was like maybe the worst debate I've ever seen in my entire life.
I do think people feel like that we are confronting a crisis.
There were going to be discussion about whether he should continue.
At first it was shocking, then it was scary, then it was sad, and by the end it was absurd. Is the riskiest path sticking with Joe Biden, or is the riskiest path saying we want someone else? And anybody who says that is not a tough call right now is full of
I just want to say it is a historic moment when the Pod Save boys are cursing.
Is it really?
I mean, I don't know. I don't watch Pod Save, but they seem to maybe they curse all the time. I don't listen to it, but they seem to try to do the clean cut thing.
I think their whole shtick is that they're the establishment, but they curse. So that if you think they're like, right. we're not a part of the Democratic Party establishment, even though we're all former Obama administration speechwriters, because we could say the F word.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Then maybe it wasn't historic. It's just a typical day.
The whole thing is like whole thing is like it's like they're like even they're so establishment that when Trump tried to overthrow the government of Venezuela, they were like, we don't always align with Trump on everything, but this is an example where it's kind of like our interests do align, because we are just hegemons like everybody else, even though we wear T-shirts instead of suit ties. That's like,
oh my God, I think I forgot about. I think I blocked that out, honestly.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. All right, I stand corrected then.
On Friday, in a stunning move, the New York Times editorial board called on President Biden to serve his country and drop out of the presidential race. NBC News has learned that President Biden is expected to address his campaign with his family at Camp David. That's according to 5 people familiar with the matter. Now, he and First Lady Jill Biden arrived there late last night to join their children and grandchildren in a trip planned before Thursday's debate. The campaign was always going to be a topic of conversation, but now undoubtedly Thursday's debate will be front and center.
And do you want to know what they came up with? This is breaking news. I mean, we have the benefit now of speaking 24 hours later. the takeaway from the Biden family meeting was, let's blame Biden's advisors for not preparing him properly. It's all their fault. And apparently Biden's top advisor, the person really cheering him on to stay in the race, is Hunter Biden, source of great decision-making over the years and nothing but high-level counsel. So that's the Biden family decision. They've decided to throw their advisors under the bus and make fun of what they call bedwetters. So anybody who's freaking out right now about the fact that the president is mentally incompetent is, in the eyes of Biden world, a bedwetter. And they're sticking in.
I mean, Hunter could really have a gun to Biden's head. A literal gun to his head.
How so?
Oh, just he had a gun charge. I'm trying to make a little stupid joke about.
Hunter, right? Yeah, true. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, Hunter is a convicted criminal now.
Yeah.
And who knows what kind of pressure tactics
exactly
he's using against his father, or he's just such a wise decision maker, as we know from his whole record.
Right.
That how can Biden not follow his esteemed
Listen to
counsel?
him, it's true.
Hunter, of course, was like a genius in the Ukrainian energy gas field because he got appointed to a lucrative board seat on Burisma, of course, because of his qualifications, and he's also a brilliant artist, very accomplished artist. So, yeah, why not listen to him also as a presidential counselor?
An Amtrak rider, which is how he got on the board of Amtrak. A brilliant Amtrak rider, yeah.
There we go.
All right.
Senior advisor Anita Dunn addressed the matter on Saturday.
You all did not have any kind of conversations about, should Joe Biden drop out of this race?
The conversation that we had is, okay, what do we do next? Okay, that is, if there's one thing that we're about, it's, okay, it's Barack Obama.
1 second, I just want to explain that this woman, by the way, Anita Dunn, who is part of Biden's team, is famous for doing PR for Time's Up, the Me Too movement, and at the same time advising Harvey Weinstein and other accused sexual abusers. But the nice thing about the Harvey Weinstein thing is that she did it for free.
Okay.
Yeah. So out of the kindness of her own heart.
Well, it sounds like a conflict of interest. And it also sounds like a conflict of interest that all these former Biden staffers are interviewing the current Biden staffers. Like Simone Sanders right there is a former spokesperson for Kamala Harris and now hosts a show on MSNBC because that's part of the DNC revolving door.
Exactly.
So it's a little challenging sometimes to get unbiased media coverage when the media is populated by the people who used to work for the government.
Right. And before she worked for Kamala, she was a senior Biden aide. So
Obama said bad debates happen. We had a bad debate. What do we do next? And, the president, above all, is focused on what do we do next? What do I need to go do?
that's not true because we know he doesn't want to drop out. She's making it seem like, okay, what do I need to do? I guess he's thinking, what do I need to do for my political future? As opposed to what do I need to do to save democracy?
Well, that's the whole thing with these people. They're all focused on their own political survival. Biden's focused on his, and then the Democratic, establishment, they're focused on theirs because they don't think now Biden is a suitable steward of their campaign, that he can beat Trump. But, no one's asking, okay, what about the fact that the president of the most powerful country on earth, which is currently fueling two catastrophes, one in Gaza, one in Ukraine, that he's mentally incompetent and has the nuclear codes. And one of those crises, Israel-Gaza, that threatens to open a new front in Lebanon with Hezbollah, which could lead to a regional war. The other one, Ukraine, that could lead ultimately, it threatens the possibility of nuclear war. And no one's saying, do we want this person who we don't think is suitable to defeat Donald J. Trump in an election months away? Do we want him to be presiding over these current crises now, along with all the other duties of a president? No one's asking that question because they don't care about the planet's survival. They care about their political survival.
Exactly. Right. It is so funny. Literally no one's talking about how he's governing. It's all about how he's campaigning.
Yeah.
President Biden, who agreed to the earliest general election debate in modern political history, had one goal: to persuade voters who are skeptical about his age and fitness for office that he is up to serve another 4 years. Mr. Biden has consistently told voters, watch me.
If I were to run, I think they're going to judge me on my vitality. Can I still run up the steps of Air Force Two? Am I still in good shape? Do I have all my faculties? Am I energetic? I think it's totally legitimate for people to ask those questions.
He did fail his own test. He couldn't run up the airplane steps. Remember, he fell.
That's true. He's been failing for a while.
Yeah.
This is for the voters to decide. Take a look. Look at me, see if I have the energy, see if I know what I'm talking about, and make their judgment. I think it's a legitimate thing to be concerned about anyone's age, including mine. I think that's totally legitimate. But I think the best way to make the judgment is to watch me.
Well, I think the takeaway here for a politician is just I'm offering some advice here, is don't say, watch me. Don't say, it's not going to go well for you. Gary Hart famously, this is probably before most people's time, but Gary Hart in the 1980s, when he was a Democratic senator, he was dogged by rumors that he was a philanderer. And he said, watch me, just watch me, watch me. And then, so the reporters did, and they ended up following him and catching him having an affair.
Right.
And that torpedoed his political chances. So from Gary Hart to Joe Biden, I think the lesson is do not say, watch me. Do not encourage voyeurism. It's not going to work out for you.
See, Useful Idiots, we give you pop culture tips, we give you bathroom tips, and now we give you campaign tips.
There we go. They should be watching
on Thursday night.
Watching these shows. Okay.
Voters watched the president deliver a halting performance, at times appearing confused and repeatedly losing his train of thought.
Making sure that we're able to make every single solitary person eligible for what I've been able to do with the
look at Trump's face while he's talking, by the way,
with the COVID, with dealing with everything we have to do with look, if we finally beat Medicare.
For his part, Mr.
You almost saw for a second a tinge of empathy on Trump's face. You can see it maybe like, there's something inside his soul stirring for a second. Like, it's something he never really felt before, and probably in his life, which is empathy. You can see it almost, but then of course it went away.
He's like, is this guy okay?
Yeah. I mean, somewhere deep down in Trump's soul, there was like the rumblings of empathy for a moment, but of course it went away because I don't think Trump's capable of feeling empathy, but you can see it there.
Yeah.
The makings of it. Maybe if Biden had gone on for another hour, if Biden had gone on for another hour, it would have finally come out for Trump.
His face cracked me up, though. My God. He was genuinely surprised by Biden, I think. I think he didn't think it would be that bad.
Unleashed a torrent of false claims, saying that most Americans supported overturning Roe v. Wade when polls show the opposite, saying falsely again that there was widespread fraud in the 2020 election, and refusing to answer whether he would accept the election results in November.
Will you accept the results of the election, regardless of who wins? Yes or no, please.
If it's a fair and legal and good election, absolutely. I would have much rather accepted these, but the fraud and everything else was ridiculous. And if you want, we'll have a news conference on it in a week.
Democratic leaders are publicly expressing support for President Biden. On Friday, former President Obama posted, quote, "Bad debate nights happen. Trust me, I know. But this election is still a choice between someone who has fought for ordinary folks his entire life and someone who only cares about himself."
I think someone who only cares about himself is a great way to describe Barack Obama, clearly, as he's pushing Joe Biden in an act of elder abuse, I think, to continue running for politically selfish reasons. And I'm sorry, I would not describe Joe Biden as someone who has fought for ordinary folks his entire life. Joe Biden's famously someone who serves Wall Street, who has pushed every single disastrous U.S. Dirty war, invasion, proxy war, now the proxy war in Ukraine, and has caused irreparable harm to ordinary folks around the world. So I do not think you can describe him that way. And only in a world where you think Joe Biden fights for ordinary folks can you think he's also suitable to be a candidate still and a commander-in-chief.
Well, he also said, he admitted this out loud. He said, talking about millennials, he said, I have no empathy for them. None.
That's right. Biden said that in 2020. And that's him. That's who he is. He's always been like that.
Yeah.
You know, he, of course, is the lead author of the so-called crime bill, which pushed mass incarceration. You can go through his, I mean, terrible record. It's incredible. And also not just a bad record, but a career as a pathological liar.
Oh, yeah.
He had to drop out of the presidential race, 30 plus years ago when he was caught lying multiple times and plagiarizing his stump speech.
Yeah.
President Biden's aides and allies have circulated talking points to Democrats in an all-out effort to contain the damage. Trying to calm donors at a rally on Friday in North Carolina, a defiant President Biden insisting he's prepared to fight on.
I know I'm not a young man. State the obvious. I don't walk as easy as I used to. I don't speak as smoothly as I used to. I don't debate as well as I used to. But I know what I do know. I know how to tell the truth.
The decision is effective.
No, you don't. I'm sorry. No, you don't. They love to fixate on Trump's lies, but they don't point out that Biden, to the extent he was coherent during the debate, which was not too often, he lied also. He said that for the first time, no troops are dying overseas when many troops have died under his watch, including in Afghanistan and Syria. So he does lie. He's lied his whole career. So this whole effort to rebrand him as a truth teller when, again, he had to drop out of the presidential primary in 1988 because he was lying about his academic record. He was lying about his personal background because he ripped off a British politician's stump speech. Like this guy's a pathological liar. And now this is what they're going with because yes, Trump lies. So they think they can pretend that Biden doesn't.
Biden lies slightly less than Trump. That could be a good slogan, good motto.
Well, we're going to hear actually a great suggested slogan for Biden today from Useful Idiot's fan favorite, Brian Stelter, who's going to make a return to the show today. So stay tuned for that.
President Biden's alone. At this point, if he dropped out of the race, he would free up his delegates to support another nominee. So far, the president and his campaign have indicated that he does not plan to step aside. On Capitol Hill, there are widespread fears about losing the White House, but top leaders are urging calm.
You see a performance that gets the kind of reviews that that performance got, that would be cause for concern. That was strike one. If this were a ball game, he's got two more swings.
Do you think?
Okay, so it's a performance. It's just a performance. If you act, if you're an actor, if you're a musician, we all have a bad show once in a while. So whatever, big deal. And then it's also baseball too. There's also, let's throw in a baseball metaphor. So
baseball performance.
Yeah. For some reason, a politician, like a baseball player up to bat, also gets 3 strikes. So Biden, I guess, has 2 more swings at it. And because why not? Let's just apply the rules of baseball for some reason to the highest position in the land, the commander-in-chief. Why not?
They're just riffing.
President Biden's the best messenger for the top of the ticket.
I'm a very big supporter of President Biden. He's been a great president.
After the debate performance last night, should he step aside?
No. All right.
Well, there you have it.
Well, there you have it, guys. Very responsive political party. Well, luckily, we have more Nancy Pelosi for you. So let's take a look at Nancy talking to show fave Dana Bash at CNN.
Some prominent columnists, several newspaper editorial boards are just simply calling for Biden to step aside for the good of the country. Tom Friedman, a friend of President Biden's, wrote the following. He wrote, Joe Biden, a good man and a good president, has no business running for re-election. If he insists on running and he loses to Trump, Biden and his family and his staff and party members who enabled him will not be able to show their faces.
Thomas Friedman begins that column by saying, I'm paraphrasing here. He says, I watched the debate alone in a Lisbon hotel room and I wept. So Thomas Friedman, who has been running cover, for example, for Israel his entire career, he sees all the dead Palestinian children on TV killed with U.S. weaponry, U.S. support. He's not weeping over that. But his good friend, Joe Biden, a meltdown on the debate stage. Oh, the tears are just flowing for Tom Friedman. The tears are flowing.
Yeah. Well, by the way, speaking of weeping, guys, we have over 2,500 people watching right now, 2,741, and we have 730 likes. We're going to need to raise that right now. I'd really rather not take breaks, but I need to train you guys better. Let's get it up to 900. And that is being very generous on my part. I should demand that it go up to 1,000. Let's see where we're at now. Okay, we're at 924. Good job. But guys, please be better, useful idiot patriots.
Thank God, because like Thomas Friedman, I was about to weep.
Yeah, exactly.
I was about to weep at those like numbers. So thank you for averting my weeping. I appreciate it.
Yeah. And by the way, don't like twice because that cancels it.
What do you say to that? Is there any part of you that believes that President Biden should step aside?
I want you to know I came home to California, South and North, and people are for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. They have some judgment about a person who stood on that stage and lied. If you're just talking about the debate, I'm respectful of some of the opinions that people have, but I also am respectful of the grassroots. My people are very much Biden, Kamala Harris, and this is an opportunity for Joe Biden to go out there and show he has the stamina and the rest. And by the way, while the press, and for some reason they don't, there are healthcare professionals who think that Trump has dementia, that his connection, his thoughts do not go together. Not only.
All right, so that's the new talking point. Yes, Biden is incoherent. Yes, he melts down on stage, but it's Trump who has dementia. Everyone look over here at Trump. And some medical professionals think that he has dementia. So just pay attention to him. That's the talking point they're going to try. I don't think that's going to land very much.
Yeah.
When on the debate stage, the contrast is pretty striking. Trump can put thoughts together. Of course, Trump is deranged. He says all these false things. And by the way, policy-wise, and no one talks about this because no one cares about policy anymore, he's a maniac. His only critique of Biden when it comes to, foreign policy, all this warmongering that Biden has done, is that Biden hasn't been enough of a warmonger.
Yeah.
And if Democrats cared about stuff like that, they could point that out. But they don't, because they're on board with the warmongering. And so they have nothing to say there in that respect. But they're going to try to say now that Trump has dementia. So they're going to do the same thing that they claim we should not be doing about Joe Biden, which is diagnosing him from before.
Yeah.
I think that's going to land.
They're basically like, our guy is less cognitively impaired than your guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And by the way, speaking of warmongering, one of the most notable parts of the whole debate was when Biden kept saying Hamas is the only one who wants the war to keep going. It's Hamas. It's all Hamas. And Trump, in one of those moments of Trump or Chomsky, where he says a very bold truth, but has the totally morally inverted view of Chomsky, he said, "It's not Israel wants to keep fighting, and let him."
Exactly. Yeah. Trump told the truth there because he wants Israel to continue mass murdering, whereas Biden wants to pretend that he's opposed to it and wants to bring about a ceasefire, which he doesn't. And Trump also said that he tried to insult Biden by saying that Biden's like a Palestinian.
Oh my God, that was really gross. Yeah.
Which was an outright racist slur. And again, no one in the media cared about that because they endorsed that racism, basically. They endorsed that dehumanization of the people who are being slaughtered with U.S. weapons. And no one cares about that. And no Democrats want to make an issue about that because they're on board with it too, ultimately. And they don't want to be seen as quote unquote weak by, for example, defending minimal Palestinian rights because they oppose them too.
That he just lies. He doesn't even know the truth. So if we're just talking about mental acuity, let's be fair about it. I don't think Tom Friedman thinks that Donald Trump should be president of the United States. And, while he may be saying we're enablers, we see Joe Biden up close. We know how attuned he is to the issues, how informed he is. And I debate with him about legislation, and not debate, but discuss it with him. He's right there. So in any case, it was.
So trust us, everybody. Don't worry. Never mind what you saw on stage.
No, don't believe your lying eyes.
Yeah, don't believe your lying eyes. Trust me, when we talk to Joe in private, trust me, he's totally with it.
He's so with it.
Case closed. Case closed.
I mean, I believe that before what is it, sundowning? Is that the term? when it gets late and you kind of lose it. I believe
Mhm.
that's what happens. Wait, let me just show the very end of this clip because I think Nancy leaves us with some really good
Bad
words of
night.
wisdom.
Let's not-
Words of wisdom. Hold on.
That's just the way it is. They're always concerned about the top.
Are they
of the
more
ticket.
concerned now?
But like to see it, us and some of the women's caucus, womenomics, where women in the workplace, where we have family and medical leave, where we have affordable child care, where we have home health care for women who are caregivers. Men are caregivers too, so that we can have an economy where everyone participates to the fullest and children are cared for, because it's all about the children. So it is, it's difficult. Politics is difficult. It's never easy. And
I think that should be perhaps the slogan for the Biden campaign. It's all about the children, it's never easy. Yeah. Totally unrelated to whether or not he's fit to be president, but good pivot. Good pivot from Nancy. All righty. What do we got next?
Think about the children. Think about the children and elect the cognitively declining old man.
Right. That's
For the
true,
children.
actually. There's a connection
Yeah.
there. You kind of devolve. You become childlike. So maybe that's the connection. Yeah. Well, we have more Biden apologia and enabling. This is from James Clyburn.
About his performance on Thursday, though, sir, do you understand why some Democrats, some independents who were not that interested in voting for Donald Trump and were considering voting for Joe Biden look at that and say, I just don't see it. I don't want to vote for him. What do you say to them?
I would say to them, take into account the record. Yes, it was a bad performance. I've been around these things. I've been a part of debate preparation before, and I know when I see what I call preparation overload. And that's exactly.
That's the issue, guys. He was actually too prepared.
You're too prepared, everybody. That's the excuse.
Yeah.
He was too prepared. He prepared too much. Okay.
He prepared too much. Yeah.
He's too much of a hard worker. Leave Joe alone. Okay. He prepared too much. And which is very funny because they did spend all week preparing. They canceled pretty much everything else. They were huddled with Biden and his advisors preparing. And yes, despite all that preparation, he could not deliver a sentence. And James Clyburn wants to say that the problem there is he just prepared too much. So if he hadn't prepared so much, he wouldn't have been so bad. But it led to, you can actually see, it did lead to some serious gaffes. So for example, when Biden said that line about how we beat Medicare, it's obvious there what he was supposed to say. He was supposed to say, we finally beat Big Pharma to save Medicare.
Yeah.
But that's the point. He can't deliver that line because he's so out of it. So the preparation showed actually how inept he is because he can't say these really simple lines that he had spent a lot of time rehearsing. So Jim Clyburn wants to say that the preparation is too much. No, the answer is actually just Biden just can't. He can't function. He just can't. He cannot.
They really should have demanded the debate be earlier.
Well, yes. So that's another new talking point. This came out in Axios where Biden's aide said that he's really on point between 10 a.m. and 4 p.m.
Yeah.
Afterwards, he kind of shuts down. So maybe we'll be getting a noon debate from now on from the Biden camp. And if it's after then they'll just say it doesn't count.
All right.
So we can have 2 and 3 more strikes.
I mean, which is a sign of cognitive decline, by the way, when you're only kind of sharp during certain hours.
What was going on the other night, I saw Joe Biden grabbing for words and phrases and even numbers that he was loaded up with. The next day, he gets to North Carolina, he's freewheeling, and he captivated the audience. And that's what...
He was not freewheeling. He was reading from a teleprompter.
Right. He was telewheeling.
He was telewheeling, exactly. That's not freewheeling. I believe the definition of freewheeling does not include reading off a teleprompter.
Yeah.
I think that's being impromptu, right? Off the dome. So I'm sorry, sir. He was not freewheeling.
We should do it. You know, the debate preparation can be tough, but you got to really do a good job of preparing the candidate not just with information, but with style, with deflection, and the kinds of things that we did not see in Joe Biden the other night. And
so it's a question of style, guys. They didn't prepare him in style.
It's a question of style, and again, it's the fault of the advisors. Somehow, it's their fault that Joe Biden couldn't handle a debate with Donald Trump. It's their fault because they didn't teach him how to deflect properly. But the problem is no amount of deflection can mask the fact that Biden can't string a sentence together. That's kind of the issue here.
Yeah, after a certain time of day, yeah. Well, we have one more intervention from James Clyburn. This one's especially helpful.
Biden has a history of stuttering. He did that as a child. All of us know how stutterers operate. I went to school with one. So when you have trouble getting out a word, that is what comes from stuttering. But when he expressed opinions, he was on the money with the opinions. He may not have gotten the word out, but the thoughts were great.
Okay, that is the slogan. That's the slogan. May not have gotten the words out, but the thoughts are great. Biden, Harris. Thoughts are great. Biden, Harris. Also, the way he said, we all know how stutterers operate, makes it sound like they're kind of like, it made it sound nefarious. You know, stutterers, even though obviously that wasn't what he was trying to do, but the way he phrased it.
Yeah, and because Biden was, again, Biden couldn't put together a coherent sentence, and it wasn't a stutter. He just didn't know what he was talking about. As Trump, very comically, that was a funny moment Trump pointed out, where Trump said, I didn't understand what Biden just said, and I don't think he did either. And that was funny, and it was also accurate, I think. And that's the sad thing. So Clyburn's excuses are, it was the aide's fault, he overprepared, and he has and Nancy Pelosi's is that, what about Trump, who has dementia? I mean, I just don't think this is going to work with the voters that they need to reach to win.
It's not dementia, it's a stutter. Biden, Harris, 2024. Just spitballing here.
All right, so we've seen Jim Clyburn come out to defend Biden, Nancy Pelosi. Now we're going to go to another heavyweight who has the president's back, John Fetterman. And you know, when John Fetterman is defending you, then you're onto something good, because John Fetterman, of course, is one of the few prominent Democrats left who are willing to sacrifice their career to defend Israel. So John Fetterman has a record of picking the absolute worst people and sides to defend. So here's John Fetterman speaking of Fox News.
Yes, now Pennsylvania Senator John Fetterman. Senator, welcome to Fox News Sunday.
Hey, it's great to be here.
Okay, you know what it's like to have a tough debate. You posted about this and said for people who were freaking out, you said chill the blank out. But that's, you know, the worries have only grown. You heard Lucas's reporting. We now have the New York Times, the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, a number of pundits on the left saying it's got to be done for the good of the country, for the president to step away. Have you changed your position at all?
Oh, no. Oh, no. I mean, I don't put any kinds of, there's no value in any of those things. I mean, there was that same kind of a freak out after my debate. And in fact, I might even say that I had a more difficult evening than the president did. And
by the way, where is he? He looks like he's being held hostage.
Well, he is
that the room AIPAC keeps him in?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he is pretty much a hostage of AIPAC at this point.
Yeah.
But Fetterman, again, he says that there was more of an outcry after his debate. Yes, well, you did have a stroke, sir.
Right.
Okay, so in your defense, it's a lot harder to speak after you have a stroke. Biden hasn't had a stroke. That's kind of the point here, that he sounds almost as bad as Fetterman did after having a stroke.
Right. Right. And so him kind of commiserating on this is not the best look.
Yeah.
Here I am right now having this conversation. And I really like to remind to everybody watching that right now Biden is 1 and Trump is still 0. And he's the only person that's ever beaten Trump. And I really believe that Joe Biden will do that again, despite all of the Democrats wetting the bed over that kind of thing. Yeah, I'm right here there.
I'm right here there. That's another good slogan.
I'm right here there.
Yeah, that's what all supporters of Biden should say. I'm right
here
here there.
Right here there.
there.
All right, John Fetterman. Well, hey, that's a big pickup for Biden to have the support of a demented Israel supporter, the guy who's like waves the Israeli flag in the middle of the night on top of buildings.
Genocide mascot.
Yes, John Fetterman. Okay, well, now we're going to hear a little bit of the freak out from the pundit class, including Useful Idiots fan favorite, the Chuckster.
Democrats want to lecture Republicans for putting party over country and how they've been enabling of Donald Trump. Mitch McConnell is frequently criticized for that moment where he decided to prioritize not dividing his own party and letting Trump off the hook by not voting to convict him during the impeachment. Can Democrats really sit there and say, this is not about whether you think Biden can win the election. He might be able to win the election. It's not because he's Joe Biden. It's because he's not Donald Trump. The real issue is he telling the truth about whether he can serve a full 4 years? And there's a lot of challenges in the world. We want a president who could be incapacitated. This is one of those where you got to say to yourself, this is hard. There's no doubt. There's risk no matter what you do here. But you got to say to yourself, what's in the best interest of the country, not the party? What's in the best interest of the country in the next 4 years?
I stand corrected. I was saying that the pundits were not really expressing concern that the commander-in-chief of the world's most powerful nation is out of it. And actually, Chuck Todd sort of referenced that there. So that's one indication that at least some people are thinking about the implications of having, a president overseeing one of the world's most powerful nuclear arsenals, rivaled only by Russia, being incapacitated. So there we go. Chuckster, surprising.
I mean, it is impressive. He just spoke a major truth, which is basically how can Democrats pretend to be the party of democracy as opposed to the Republicans, who are the party of self-interest, the party of, they put party over country. And it's hard to sell that when you yourself are clearly putting party and Biden over country. So, but my objection to what Chuck Todd is doing is it's a little like too little too late. And of course, he's part of the media that totally blacked out any potential challenges to Biden. If the media cared about democracy, they would have wanted a vigorous primary season and would have been interviewing people who are challenging Biden on their shows.
Absolutely. But they declared early on in this race that there'd be no primary challenger. And of course, in 2022, they all coalesced around Biden against Bernie Sanders.
Yeah. In 2020.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, 2022. I see what you're saying. Yeah. 2020 as well. Yeah. Okay.
All right. Jen Psaki, though.
Oh, God.
Former White House spokesperson. She's in a tough position. She used to work for Biden. Now she works for MSNBC covering Biden.
That revolving door.
So she's going to explain. She wants you to know, okay, yes, the president is out of it. Yes, he's mentally incompetent. But do you really want to replace him? Because these are some downsides. And so here she is to explain.
I'm not going to sit here and tell you what to think. But those of you out there who have hopes of Joe Biden stepping aside so that there can be a brokered convention should know that isn't exactly an easy road either. You should know all the factors there.
She is trying to tell you what to think, by the way. I like the way she pretends this is just a PSA so you know all the information, as if she doesn't have a major investment in his continuing.
First of all, it would have a seismic impact on the Democratic Party if the president stayed neutral and didn't endorse his own vice president. It would mean also a couple thousand party insiders would be empowered to make a choice on the nominee, not the millions of Democratic primary voters who already cast their ballots. And it
because Jen Psaki and the Bidens care so much about the primary process and voters and what they want, which is why in 2020 Obama came out of his Martha's Vineyard mansion to get all the other candidates in line so that they would all coalesce against Bernie. That's why they didn't hold any primaries this year, or they didn't do one in Florida, for instance. They just submitted Biden's name. These people are so full of it.
They hate the notion of party insiders making decisions as opposed to the grassroots. when, of course, in 2016, they rigged the primary against Bernie Sanders. They made sure to hold debates at times when people would be watching sports events. They did everything they could to put Hillary Clinton in the lead, and they won. And so now they're pretending as if they care about the grassroots and democracy. It's very comical, very comical.
And of course, they care about a very truth-telling, objective, uncompromising media, which is why you go from working for Biden to having a show on MSNBC.
A talented, and there are many Democrats are very talented out there, but largely untested candidate with potentially low name identification into the national spotlight as the one person responsible for defeating Trump.
Well, if they had a primary, they wouldn't have low name recognition.
Exactly right.
It's such a self-fulfilling prophecy. It's like, we're not going to let them into the primary, and then we're going to pretend that they have no chance in a general. Well, yeah, because you didn't ever highlight them.
Just over 2 months from an election. You may still prefer that option, but you should know the candidate who was spit out of that process may not be your choice either. And it would all be very messy and potentially very divisive. Now,
but I'm not telling you what to think.
Right.
I'm just telling you that if
Give me
you
the facts.
replace Joe Biden, you are imperiling our nation, and there will be chaos, and this is crazy. And please do not replace Joe Biden.
Yeah. Just the facts, ladies and gentlemen.
All right. Well, someone who's willing to break from the staunch defense of Joe Biden is Jamie Raskin. He tells Al Velshi that actually there are some doubts about Biden, and what's the response? Well, there's a serious conversation going on.
There was a big problem with Joe Biden's debate performance, and there's also just a tremendous reservoir of affection and love for Joe Biden in our party. And so this makes it a difficult situation for everybody, but there are very honest and serious and rigorous conversations taking place at every level of our party because it is a political party and we have differences of point of view. I mean, if you compare that to the non-existent dialogue and conversation that took place in the Republican Party after Donald Trump's criminal conviction on 34 counts, it's remarkable.
All right, so we have some combos going on in the Democratic Party.
Exciting.
I will say there is a cult-like thing around Trump in the Republican Party. Not that the party establishment likes Trump that much, but they have no choice but to worship him because he has the base. Like, the base just doesn't care about anybody else. There is a cult-like reverence for him there. So there is a difference. I mean, I don't think you would see this level of dissent if Trump had such a bad debate performance inside the Republicans. So I think there's maybe a point there. But at the same time, Jamie Raskin, how far are these serious conversations really going to go? Because you can see already Nancy Pelosi, Jim Clyburn, important people rallying around Biden.
Right. Exciting times.
Okay.
Right.
Well, let's turn to another East Affiliates fan favorite. He's back. Brian Stelter. We miss him a lot.
We got the Chuckster and the Stelter in the same episode.
I know some old favorites making some appearances in this DEF CON moment. It really is. I mean, when you're in crisis, you need voices of reason. And who is more reasonable than Brian Stelter? So here he is with his take.
If you're in a battle between someone who lies really confidently versus someone who mostly tells the truth but really incoherently, the confident liar is always going to win. And I think many millions of Americans who don't want to see Trump reelected were yelling at their TVs, wanting Biden to fight back harder, wanting to see an actual debate, an actual fight. They didn't get that. They came away disappointed. And it makes me wonder if there will be any more debates at all.
I mean,
I love this framing. We have, so Trump is a liar and Biden is an incoherent truth teller.
Yeah. That's democracy. Democracy's on the ballot. Yeah. Well,
he tells the truth, but you just can't understand him. But he tells the truth.
The ideas are good. The words don't come out, but the ideas are there. Well, we actually have a tweet because someone who was frustrated by this clip was Michael Tracy, friend of the show, and let's see what he had to say in response to the claim that it's a liar versus a truth teller. Biden literally claimed, "I'm the only president this century, this decade, that doesn't have any troops dying anywhere in the world." Somehow this clear lie, Biden personally attended a dignified transfer of 3 dead troops in February, doesn't make it onto the lie list. Now, to be fair to Stelter, I think Trump's lies were probably a good bit, a big ratio worse than Biden's in terms of the number.
Trump definitely told more lies, but I think you have to factor in the fact that Biden can't put a sentence together. So
Right, you're right. So it's for
if he
lack of ability, perhaps. Yeah.
If he could put sentences together more, he'd probably be telling even more lies. Because again, yes, Trump lies a lot, but so does Biden. Biden's been lying his whole career, including about his own personal background. So I don't think really in this lie contest, I don't think you can say that Biden is that much ahead. He's a little bit ahead of Trump, because Trump does lie a lot. But I don't think Biden, if you want to talk about, I mean, first of all, it rhymes, lie and Biden. So come on, right there, you know. But I don't think Biden really runs away with that contest.
Yeah, I guess not. I mean, some of Trump's things were just so ridiculous. The abortion stuff, all the legal minds believe that Roe should have been overturned. And then the beautiful water, how great
water.
That was amazing.
Water. Yeah. I can't turn on the tap now under Joe Biden, but
dirty.
Everything's dirty, but under Trump, it was just pristine water all the time.
Beautiful,
yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's turn to a little policy. Again, we're going to hear now from Congressman Michael McCaul, who's a Republican, and he's going to show just why Republicans have no coherent critique of Biden whatsoever. When it comes to foreign policy, their only critique is that he's not enough of a warmonger, even though when it comes to warmongering, I don't think he can be beat. He's such a warmonger, but Republicans just want Biden to warmonger even more. So here's Michael McCaul explaining that.
And good point from Lucy Bell.
I thought it interesting that
I just wanted to highlight Lucy Bell's point. Honest, like when he promised to raise the minimum wage, absolve student loan debt, raise income for disabled people. All fair points, Lucy. Okay.
The chairman of the Joint Chiefs, General C.Q. Brown, said, according to the AP, that the U.S. won't likely be able to help Israel defend itself against a broader Hezbollah war, as it was able to help Israel fight off the Iranian barrage of missiles and drones in April. Are we able to assist Israel if that turns into a whole nother front for them with Hezbollah, which is much better equipped and armed, and will we?
Well, yes, we can. We have the capacity. We did so when Iran launched their rockets into Israel. Remember that? 99% were taken out. They were not effective.
But what about General Brown, though, saying he doesn't think we can give that same level of help if Hezbollah starts?
Well, I respect him, General Brown. I know him. But the fact is, we're not helping them. In fact, this is what is most disturbing to me, is that we're withholding weapon systems that I have signed off on and Congress has appropriated with the intent of sending those weapons to Israel. Remember the supplemental? They are effectively withholding 7 weapon systems. I can't get into the details. That is not helping Israel. And by the way, same thing in Ukraine. You know, I wrote in shall provide ATACMS to Ukraine to use against the Russians. They said, okay, we'll change the policy. You can hit inside. But then they restrict them from using ATACMS.
Well, and in fact, we've got a map from the Institute for Study of War that actually gives us a look at how far the weapons we've sent, where they're authorized to be used. You can see that. As I understand it, it doesn't hit it wouldn't reach to most military outlets for the Russians or hit any of their military air bases. So at one point, President Biden said he didn't think any of our weapons should be used into Russia. He worried about sparking World War III, but now there is some level of use in Russia.
Well, they said they changed the policy, but they're limiting the weapons, restricting them from using the very weapons that could effectuate that policy.
We're not risking World War III enough. That is Michael McCall's and Fox News' critique of Joe Biden.
Yeah.
There's not enough of a risk here of World War III. Let's up the risk. Let's send Israel even more weapons. There was just a report in Reuters saying that since October 7th, the U.S. has sent Israel 14,000 2,000-pound bombs. So these massive bombs, even much smaller bombs, cause huge carnage, as we saw, for example, recently when Israel bombed that tent camp in Rafah. Those were done with so-called small bombs. But these 2,000-pound bombs, Biden has sent 14,000 of those, which is just unfathomable these massive bombs being dropped on a densely populated area, such as Gaza, one of the most densely populated in the world. And Michael McCall and the Republicans are complaining that Biden is not sending Israel enough weapons. It's just absolute insanity. That is the mental incompetence we should be worried about.
Right.
I think above all else, the fact that Biden's sending Israel those weapons and he's sadistic enough to do that, and the fact that Republicans are sadistic enough to say that that's not enough. That is the craziness of our political system.
Right.
Far more alarming than whatever's going on in Biden's head and his ability to debate Trump on the debate stage.
Yeah, well, it's a perfect metaphor, right? The debate, like the fight is between someone who acknowledges that Israel wants to keep fighting, wants to keep genociding, and wants them to do that, and openly wants them to do that, versus someone pretending that Israel doesn't want to do that.
Yeah.
That's the choice.
Yeah. In the case of Ukraine, at least you can argue that this is a war between two armies. And
Right.
yes, Ukraine was invaded by Russia. That's all true. Now, of course, to make that argument that we should then respond with arming Ukraine to the teeth and letting it strike inside Russia with U.S. weapons, you have to ignore the long record of there being diplomatic opportunities to end the war.
Yeah, blocking. Right.
U.S. is sabotage, and we've talked about that at length. But whatever, at least like as a superficial argument, ignoring the context, yes, there is a fight there between two armies. So, okay, technically you can make the case for arming Ukraine if you ignore the entire context of like there being ways to avoid all that. But in the case of Gaza, this is not a war. Hamas doesn't have an army. And these bombs are not being used even really to fight Hamas. They're just being bombed to destroy a civilian area. And it's just, there's no debate about that at all, really, in U.S. politics. There's just been a performative gesture by the Biden administration to pause one shipment of those 2,000-pound bombs. And then that triggers this meltdown from Republicans. Well, meanwhile, he sent over 14,000 of those 2,000-pound bombs. It's just, it's unfathomable. It really is.
All right. Well, we got more great John Fetterman content for you.
Months ago.
Okay, let's talk about your trip to Israel. You met with a lot of top leaders across the political spectrum there, but I want to start with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. You spent time together. He had great praise for your unwavering support of Israel. I wonder what your assessment is if you talked about his perception of support from the Biden administration. Clearly, there have been very public tensions and some differences. What was your conversation with him on that point about?
Well, it was an honor to spend time with him as well. And he's the Democratic elected leader of our key ally. And I had the opportunity to literally meet everybody in leadership. I've met IDF soldiers. I've met university students, again, across the spectrum. And I really wanted to really make sure we stand with Israel.
Yes, across the spectrum in Israel means the people who want to just completely wipe out all of Gaza, and the people who want to leave a little bit left so that they can take that over for themselves and put in settlements. That's pretty much a spectrum inside Israel. Yeah, that's the diverse spectrum of opinion in Israel that John Fetterman is engaging with. Not, for example, he's not engaging with for example, the families of captives who are protesting Netanyahu and saying that he's the obstacle to their freedom. He's not meeting with them because he doesn't want to, because he wants to support Israel's continued mass murder campaign.
Right, because he doesn't care about the hostages.
Yeah.
Throughout all of this, and I've disagreed with the president through that, and I've shared that, and that's why Joe Biden. Well, yeah, there's the pictures. I mean, I've had the opportunity to meet everybody and remind everybody that we need to stand with Israel throughout all of this, and it's going to get more and more difficult. But we also want to make sure we bring back all of this. And I can't possibly support any kind of a deal unless for peace, as long as Hamas can't be in power on any of that. Hamas needs to be effectively neutralized before there's any kinds of peace.
And there's a left.
Which means he's adopting the Netanyahu position, which is basically that we're not going to make a deal for the freedom of our captives unless we have the right to continue committing mass murder in Gaza whenever we want. That's pretty much Netanyahu's position. And therefore, a deal is impossible because Hamas is not going to agree to something that allows Israel to continue its rampage. So Fetterman is standing against the captives and obviously against the people of Gaza whose plight he just does not care about.
Right.
wing of your party, more progressive, that differs with you on that. They're asking for totally different things and pointing the blame at different places. They've been very vocal. Are you worried about how that might impact President Biden's ability to shore up the Democrats and to win re-election, knowing those other voices are calling? Some of them, you know, they've got a movement called Abandon Biden. They've supported him in the past, and now they're actively campaigning against him.
And that whole abandon Biden thing, that's the dumbest shit I've ever heard. I mean, if you are more inclined to vote for a Democrat or be a Democrat, if you're willing to walk away from Joe Biden, you're by defecting helping Trump. And that's really it is. And if any of that kind of a movement has that kinds of move, then they want to play with that kind of fire, they better earn that burn. And now, especially because people.
What does that mean?
Earn that burn.
But like, what does he mean by that? They have to earn, like, so people who don't want to enable mass murder and are therefore urging people to vote against Biden or to not support Biden, they have to earn the burn. How?
Yeah.
Like, what does he mean by that?
I think he means tolerate Trump in office.
Oh, I see. Okay. All right. So
Still
if
weird turn of phrase.
if you oppose mass murder, then you have to earn the burn. So you're going to get Trump. Okay. All right.
Well, turn their backs on Joe Biden. Now, it's going to mean sure that everyone, it's going to be an all hands on the deck. And that's.
I think the point of the uncommitted movement is that, I'm sorry, if you, Biden, and his followers are going to support mass murder, then you're going to have to earn the burn. You're going to have to tolerate Trump because we're not going to support you. And that's why we want you to stop supporting mass murder. Fetterman can't process that thought because, I mean, he has issues cognitively, but also because he's just a fanatic supporter of Israel, which, by the way, happened after he had his stroke. I don't think he was such a diehard Israel supporter, which shows what it takes to become a fanatic Israel supporter.
Right.
You have to be cognitively
Brain
impaired.
damage. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that's enough of John Fetterman. Let's turn to another Biden ally, Chris Coons, who is predictably standing by his man.
As you have obviously seen, there is a loud chorus of people that agree with a lot of what you just said, who were so alarmed by Biden's debate performance that they say it's time for him to drop out of the race. I want to read you just three from the pages of the New York Times editorial page. Tom Friedman said, to give America the greatest shot possible of deterring the Trump threat in November, the president has to come forward and declare that he will not be running for re-election and is releasing all of his delegates for the Democratic National Convention. The New York Times editorial board, to make a call for a new Democratic nominee this late in the campaign is a decision not taken lightly, but it reflects the scale and the seriousness of Mr. Trump's challenge to the values and institutions of this country and the inadequacy of Mr. Biden to confront them. And Maureen Dowd, another columnist, Biden is jeopardizing the democracy he says he wants to save. Now, these are all people who want to stop Donald Trump, not stop Joe Biden. Is the president listening whatsoever to what these people who have supported him are saying?
Look, John, the most important swing state is Pennsylvania. That's where I campaigned all day yesterday. And the most important newspaper in Pennsylvania is the Philadelphia Inquirer. And they said after that campaign debate, the leaders of a political party who ought to be going to their nominee and saying, you have no business running for president, is Republicans who should be telling Donald Trump to drop out of this race after the torrent of lies and vengeance and anger that he unleashed on that debate stage. I think the Philadelphia Inquirer.
Okay, but they're not going to.
Got it right, and the New York Times got it wrong.
But I'm not asking you who got it right or wrong. I'm asking you, is President Biden at all listening to, considering what these people are writing? Again, allies of him in the past who are pleading with him to step out of the race. Does he hear it? How's he reacting?
Well, the folks that you're.
Can he hear? Does he have the cognitive to hear? Can he process information? I think that's a more basic question.
Yeah. They're citing there, Jonathan, are the New York Times editorial page.
Well, you know it's not limited to the New York Times.
There's not one single senior Democrat. There's not a single governor. There's not a single senator. There's not, obviously, his vice president who endorses him and supports him. I'll remind you, Donald Trump's biggest distinction from Joe Biden is the views of those closest to him. Don't take my word for it. Donald Trump's own vice president, chief of staff, Secretary of Defense, and National Security Advisor all refused to support him and have said he is unfit to serve as president again. The stakes of this race couldn't be higher. And the only Democrat who's ever beaten Donald Trump is Joe Biden. He is our candidate for November, and he has the best shot to beat him.
Well, let me ask you, you don't think that Joe Biden is the only Democrat that can beat Donald Trump, do you?
I think he's the only Democrat who can beat Donald Trump. And let me tell you, we had the...
It's so insulting to everybody else. Like, you're saying Kamala can't beat Trump?
No, well, she can't.
Really? Is Trump such a strong candidate that only Joe Biden can manage the will to defeat Donald J. Trump? I mean, really? Like, aren't they giving Trump a little bit too much credit here? Trump is a terrible candidate. He lies all the time. If he was against someone who's remotely competent, I don't think the Democrat would have a very hard time. But now they're saying only Joe Biden, only Joe Biden can defeat someone as powerful as Donald J. Trump.
Well, Kamala couldn't do it, but I do believe other people could.
I do think Kamala would have a tough time because people don't seem to like Kamala.
No.
But I do think there are other people who could. And to say that a cognitively impaired person is the only person who can defeat Donald J. Trump, another cognitively impaired person, I think you're really throwing your party under the bus there.
Yeah. But they don't care about democracy. This is kind of the point that Chuck Todd was making.
Well, it all comes back to the Michael Jackson song. They don't care about us.
Right.
You know, he really called that one.
Well, let's watch. Oh.
Okay.
Okay. Let's watch one more clip because I think what's interesting is Coons, Aaron's good friend and travel buddy, is basically saying that, it's just the New York Times who wants him to drop out. It's not like the people, and he points out no powerful Democrat, no governor, none of those people are calling for him to drop out. But let's take a look at this poll that Face the Nation it talks about.
Begin this morning with reaction to the first presidential debate of 2024. Our polling unit asked voters how they view the candidates now, including their cognitive health. The results are not encouraging for the president. The number of voters who say President Biden has the cognitive ability to serve has dropped from 35% earlier this month to 27% after the debate. That's the lowest number since CBS began asking voters that question last September. Nearly 3/4 of all registered voters now say he shouldn't be running, and nearly half of Democrats say he shouldn't remain the nominee, an extraordinary number for an incumbent who didn't face a competitive primary.
Breaking. Most Americans oppose elder abuse.
Right.
That's huge news. The fact that the majority of people would oppose elder abuse and not want Joe Biden to be put forward as the president. But according to Chris Coons and his allies, it's all just the elite pundit class who don't recognize Joe Biden's vitality and his acuity. And unfortunately for them, the polls say otherwise. Actually, majority of people don't want to see a disjointed, out-to-lunch president being put forward as their candidate once again.
Yeah. It would have been nice if John Carl had brought that up. But let's see. But there's more to this. Why isn't it? Oh, there's a delay here. Hold on.
Prime say former President Trump.
Oops, sorry.
We should also note that half of all voters also say former President Trump does not have the cognitive health to serve. Voters give former President Trump a significant edge, though, when asked which candidate explained his ideas clearly, inspired confidence, and appeared presidential.
I mean, we really have it all here. We have an oligarchy. We have a gerontocracy. It's just like the most powerful nation in the world, the richest nation in the world, and the choices we have are two mentally incompetent people who argue over their golf game. Because that really was the most heated moment of the debate was when they got into who was a better golfer.
Right.
That's where we're at.
That is where we're at. Well, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. I'm having Josh Paul on my show tomorrow, who resigned from the State Department over Gaza. That'll be on the Katie Halper show.
And that's at what
7
time?
7 p.m. Eastern Standard Tuesday. YouTube.com/The Katie Halper Show.
And our website is usefulidiotspodcast.com. Please go there to support the show, keep us going, get bonus content. And we'll see you next time. Thanks so much for tuning in.
Thanks, everyone.